Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. The update to the Prince Techstream Tour line is here. It's called ATS Anti-Torque System. I'm holding two models in my hand. One is the 98 with the Hyper G soft string, and then one is the 100 with unknown polyester string, but worked well in the racket. So I can do these first impressions with the Tennis Warehouse Europe demo strings. So big thanks to Tennis Warehouse Europe for sending me demos so I can keep reviewing stuff without too much hassle. I was always a fan of the Prince Tours. You might know if you follow my channel for a while that I used to play with the Techstream Tour 100, the 310 gram version. There's also the P, which is an 1820 string pattern and 305 grams. And there is a 290 gram version with a 1618 pattern. But I like the slightly heavier one. Still very maneuverable in the older generation. This one is a little bit heavier in swing weight. It's a little bit more mass in the head. And swing weight will make the racket more powerful, but also a little bit more sluggish overall. So good to keep that in mind. If you like a whippy frame, an increase in swing weight is not generally the way to go. That's a good rule of thumb. Otherwise, in many ways, another great playing frame like the predecessor. The issue with the predecessor, talking about the 100 here, is that it was a bit stiff and it did bother my elbow sometimes. It wasn't always the case, but playing a lot, I could feel it a little bit in my elbow. Other players reported that. Some players have no issues at all. My friend, she actually switched to that frame. Still play with it, love it. So in my full review of this, I hope he gets to try this one. So that was definitely a very good racket. I know players who try these new ones that prefer the older generation, but also know players that try these and think these are better. Why they are better? They are a bit softer, so lower flex, a little bit beefier, higher swing weight. That's generally what has changed, besides the new model that we'll get to. But in the 100, I get a little bit more stable and solid response, possibly a little bit less power level than the previous version. This one feels almost like it's filled with foam or something, while the older one felt a little bit hollow at times, but still very nice feeling overall. A solid stick, I would compare this to kind of like a Speed Pro with a little bit more spin potential. You can still flatten out balls despite the 1618 pattern. It's not like a launch cannon, but it is a pretty powerful frame. It doesn't go all the way pure drive, pure arrow, head extreme, but it is relatively powerful. So some players might want to go for the 98 for the better controls. We'll get to the 98, which is the new model. So the Techstream Tour 100 ATS, for me, I think it's definitely an improvement. I think the specs are pretty spot on. I like the slightly higher swing weight. Might not be everyone's cup of tea. I do feel like it's a bit slower on certain shots, but overall, I think the sensation is nicer. That reduced stiffness gives me a nice pocketing in the string bed, but the feel is still pretty crisp. So you need to like a slightly stiffer feel. It's not like a noodle or a racket that reminds you of frames from the 90s, 2000s. This is definitely a modern frame with some good pop, just a bit of change in the stiffness, a little bit more solid feel. Some players might find it a little bit slower than the previous version. I found it still pretty whippy, very, very reminiscent of the Speeds, the new ones, and hard to choose between them. I like the new Speeds. The Speed Pro, obviously 1820 pattern, a little bit tighter, a little bit better on flatter shots, but this one feels a bit more spin friendly and whippier. But they're still the same in the stability category, I think. So quite close, very solid racket. I find it to be a good update, but there is a difference in the way that it's tiny bit heavier. Okay, so that was the Techstream Tour 100. This one, the 98, is a new model. I think a lot of people asked for this. They used to have only kind of 100s and then the 95, which I hope to try in the future. But the 98 is kind of the nice balance, and it's becoming one of the most popular head sizes overall. And this is a more powerful 98. It's not a blade, although it's 305 grams and has mass in the head. So this is also a pretty hefty frame. Swing weight closing in on 330, between 325 and 330 with strings, but very nice feel. Better control than the 100 for sure. You feel that straight away. When I mix in between them, I know that I get less power with this one, a little bit less forgiveness, tougher to defend, but definitely easier to attack with some confidence and without the fear of hitting out. So going flatter, more aggressive, I think the 98 works better. Overall, they're pretty similar otherwise. This feels a little bit whippier, obviously, because of the smaller head size. Some players remarked that it was a little bit sluggish at times with the weight in the head, so you need to be a pretty advanced player and like frames that feel a little bit heavier. Comparing it to like an IGA racket from Technifiber, the IGA is a lot more whippy, swings through, but it doesn't feel quite as solid. I feel personally with IGA that I need weight. Here I don't think I need any weight for either of these two frames. They are good to go as is, but you need to like that almost 330 strung swing weight, which is at the top range for most players. So great frames for advanced players. If someone put a racket to my head and said, hey, pick one, I probably picked the 98 with lower tension. I think you can go down right to 20 kilos with this one, probably maybe even a bit lower. My buddy Henrik also tested the 98. First he loved it with like 15, 16 kilos tension. Then he tried restringing it with a 21 kilo fresh poly, Signum Pro Plasma, I think, Poly Pro Plasma. And he wasn't at all so much in love. He switched from being indoors, where he felt like this one played amazingly well, to clay courts where he struggled a bit to generate pace and be on the defense. So depends what kind of player you are. If you're an aggressor, if you play a lot indoors, if you like 98s in general, I think this one should be on your demo list. If you need more help on the ball, you want a bit more forgiveness on defense, maybe you play mostly on clay, I would go for the 100. But these are very solid rackets, some power, some spin, good control, and nothing super powerful, nothing super anything, in the middle style frame. The blade is less powerful than this one, for example. You need to generate more power with the blade, so this one kind of slots well in between kind of a blade and a Pure Aero VS. It's not as powerful as the Aero VS, but lands there in the middle. So could be an interesting frame for you who want power, but not all the way to some of those IGA Pure Aero VS frames, which have a high stiffness. All right, so I tried to squeeze in a lot of information there. I hope you got it through. I will do written reviews on tennisnerd.net as always, so you can check those out. These were kind of a first impressions video, because I'm also gonna get 100p and the 95 to review at a later date. So I will keep you posted, and then I will also talk more about these in that review if I played a bit with them a bit more. But I've got some fair hours and with some friends with both of these sticks. And they are good. Nothing super outstanding, amazing, marvelous about them, but definitely will have a fair share of fans among club players and advanced players. Thanks to today's sponsor, the Singles Playbook from Fuzzy Yellow Balls. Learn how to do plays, rallying versus serve and volleyers, strategies, approaching versus a pusher, lessons on the website. Just use the QR code or just log into the website. Great tool to learn how to use strategy and tactics into your tennis game. I think most of us happy weekend warriors and players that play a lot of tennis, but we struggle maybe to win more matches, could use something like this and to really work on our strategy and how we think on the tennis court. So link in the description, check this one out, Fuzzy Yellow Balls, the Singles Playbook, and there's also a doubles one. If you want to check out my affiliates, do so. The links are in the description, such as Play Your Court, where you can find a hitting partner or a coach, 50% off their platform and their service with my link. So check that one out in the USA. That is all for now. Have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.